Dun, 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 dun. Hi. Dun, 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 dun. All right. What's happening, folks? Welcome to another exciting edition of Feeding Your Sourdough Starter. If your starter is anything like mine, I think we are probably, 2 days away from making bread. Let me show you. This is fancy. I had to change the container that she was in. And you can see, look at those bubbles. That is just fantastic. Really, really good starter. Especially for kind of a short-term one so far. And here's Reba, also really nice. So these are super close to being ready. It's very exciting. Every time you start one, there are sourdough starters that have outlasted generations. I think the oldest sourdough starter in America is, I really don't know, 120 years old, something like that. It's crazy. So you too can have a sourdough starter that you can pass down to your kids and to their kids. As long as you never use it all and you keep feeding it, it will just last forever. So it's super exciting. Let's get the feeding out of the way, and then we're going to talk about baker's percentages. So this is fancy. Somebody on Facebook said that they made pancakes with theirs. So I'm definitely going to do that in the morning. I'm going to save what I'm pouring off tonight, and we are going to have pancakes in the morning. Again, my handy dandy kitchen scale. I'm going to turn it on and tare it and set it to grams, because that's what you should be using. And let me see, a towel. Did I bring a towel? I did bring a towel. Check me out being prepared. So, okay. Question came up, why is this so much? Because this is a lot of starter. Most people don't have this much starter. So why do we have so much starter? That's kind of an oversight on my part. The reason that you have that much starter is because that's how much starter I have. But that's because I do it, and I bake a lot of it. So you don't have to have this much starter. If you find that you need to maybe take it all the way down to here and just feed it so that it's maybe this big, totally fine. Pour it out all the way out to here, as long as you save some, and then feed it an equal amount of starter and flour and water mix. So half starter, 1/4 flour, 1/4 water, then you can just take it down to a more manageable size. But when I bake sourdough bread, I'm baking several loaves or large loaves or something like that. So I have to have a lot of starter. You don't have to have that much, but it'd be a whole lot cooler if you did. So let's start with Reba, because we always start with fancy. So, here, I'm going to turn this off so that I'm not actually using the scale. And let's take Reba down. Let's say that's about a little lower than half. So let's go a little lower. And we're just going to pour her off. Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. So maybe that's a bit more. I can't tell. Parallax area. Yep, that's too much. So let's take it further down to about there. Ish. It's good enough. Because, again, regular person. Then get my flour. I'm using King Arthur all-purpose flour because it's what I have at my house. I just use restaurant all-purpose flour when I'm at work. What is all-purpose flour? I don't know that we've ever actually gone over that. Let me do this without, I can't think and talk at the same time, or move and talk at the same time. So let's do this first. Again, about 3 heaping spoons. I'm not going to call this a tablespoon because that's actually a unit of measure, and you know me by now. So, and then about that much. Maybe that's too much. Maybe it's not enough. Who knows? Who cares? Plains of the Serengeti people, thousands of years, remember? Keep that in your mind. It's not going to be important. It will be important to the flavor. Let me take that back. A very loose, very wet starter has more water, so not as much yeast eating action, so it's going to be milder, whereas a firmer, not as loose, not as wet starter is going to have more of a yeasty flavor, more of a vinegary flavor. So it does matter, but it doesn't matter. You're just making bread for your family. You'll figure out what you like as time goes on. So there we go. We've taken Reba all the way down to, I don't know if you can see, to what's a more manageable amount. It's about right here. So we'll close her back up, and then we'll take this and pour off a precise amount of fancy. I'm going to pour off 300 grams. Dun, dun, dun. And then I'm going to replace it with 150 grams and 150 grams, or 150 grams and 150 milliliters, however you want to look at it. There's that. Now, I've already weighed out the flour and the water, but the scale happens to be right in front of me, so I'm going to use it. And if I can fold this without getting flour everywhere, I don't think I can. Let me attempt this. Let me concentrate fully on what I'm doing. All right, and there's that. Now stir that up. Get it nice and mixed. I'll have to clean that up later. Hopefully my wife will watch the version after, not the live version. Hopefully she'll watch it on replay and it'll all be cleaned up by then. Shh, don't tell her that I said anything. Let me get this stirred up. I needed a longer spoon, but I didn't have one, so I'm using what I got. And that is that. So now, all-purpose flour real quick, and then we'll get to baker's percentages. Bread flour is known as being a higher gluten, so higher protein, because it is made from hard winter wheat. And whereas you also have soft summer wheat, and that would be a pastry flour, which is a softer flour. If you combine the low protein content of pastry flour and the high protein content of bread flour, you get kind of a thing in the middle. All-purpose flour. King Arthur, or whatever brand you need. All right, so that's all-purpose flour. Now, what is water? No, I'm kidding, totally kidding. If you don't know what water is, I got a bridge to sell you somewhere. So today, we are going to discuss baker's percentages. I'm getting much better at the writing backwards thing, I gotta tell you. Even I am impressed by this. And I don't know ever what it looks like until I actually see it on the camera. And it's like, look at that, huh? You would never guess that I drew that backwards or wrote that backwards. That's how good I'm getting. It's very exciting. All right, baker's percentages. Everything that bakers do is in baker's percentages. And why is that? And what is baker's percentages? Baker's percentage is a way to break down a formula. Yep, that one looks pretty good too. I was just checking it out in the reflection. I don't know why the whole camera thing does this backwards, forwards, inverted, but it does. I think my A, I think you can tell, I don't know how weather people do this. Julia, how do y'all do this? It's like there. There's the A, but you can tell it's kind of leaning the wrong way. I'm gonna have to work on that. But other than that, the rest looks pretty good. And my percentage signs, I can't tell you how many times I had to write percentage sign and then look at it from the back of the paper. Oh, the back of the paper. If I just write like this, I can make it to where I can actually read it. It's like a whole new world has opened up to me. We're going to try that out next. Anyway, baker's percentages. This is what bakers use to come up with formulas or to look at formulas, to use formulas in or recipes. You guys call them recipes, civilians. But this is what we use. It's called a baker's percentage. This is, can anybody guess what this is? Anybody? Bueller? Anybody? Pound cake, 100% all-purpose flour, 100% sugar, 100% eggs, and 100% butter. Now, how in the world can you get 400% of something? You can't. You have 100% of flour. In a pound cake, that would be a pound. And then you'd have the exact same percentage of sugar. In a pound cake, that would be a pound. Nice, follow along. You'd also have the exact same amount by weight of eggs, which in this case would be, let's all say it together, a pound. And then you'd have the exact same amount of butter by weight of a pound. So a pound, a pound, a pound, a pound. That makes a pound cake. However, for us, what if I want to make 2 pound cakes? Well, my recipe calls for 2 cups of butter, so I need 4 cups of butter, and it calls for 2 eggs, so I need 4 eggs, and it calls for 2 2/3 cups of flour, so I need 4 4/3 cups, which would make 5 1. You see what I'm saying? It's just crazy making. Why we don't use the metric system is beyond me. But other than that, why people try to double recipes is also beyond me. Convert it first into a baker's percentage. But how do we do that? Simple. In America, flour is always 100%. All right, so this flour looks a little janky, I'll admit. Even if I look at it from behind, it's pretty sad. Is it even spelled right? I can't. FL. I just can't tell. No, I don't think it is. Flour. Yes, it is, but it just doesn't look right. Anyway, look at that. You can see through the paper. Okay, so tomorrow night what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it on the back of the paper really hard, and then I'm just going to hold it up, and it'll be a little bit lighter, but you guys can read it, and it'll still look great. I'm brilliant. I love that. So, in America, flour is always 100%. It doesn't matter what that weight is. Just pick something. If the recipe says 2.5 cups, then by all means, weigh out. Oh, by the way, you won't be able to use percentages unless you have a kitchen scale. So those of you who don't yet have a kitchen scale, just ignore this whole lesson because you're not going to get anything out of it because you refuse to join us in the modern age. And that's what you deserve for being a Luddite. It's not my fault. So 100% flour is always what we start with. Then everything else just measures off of it. So let's say that my flour weighs 500 grams. And let's say that my sugar says 50%. See if this worked. I wrote it really hard. We'll see if you guys can read it. Oh, yes, it does work. I love this. You just don't know how difficult it is to write backwards, you guys, and make it legible. I mean, I can barely write legible. I actually write much better if I'm writing backwards because I'm being so careful. But anyway, let's say flour is 100%, so that's 500 grams. And your formula says sugar at 50%. That would be 250 grams. Easy peasy. It doesn't matter. So let's say that it said milk was, I'm just going to make something up. Milk is 20%. I'm going to have to use even numbers because, there we go. I got it. Hey, I got it. Yay. So let's say that it says milk is 20% in your recipe. That would mean if we're working with 500 grams, then this would be 100 grams of milk. Or if this is 1,000 grams, then this would be 200 grams of milk. It doesn't matter, see? You can scale your recipe. That's all that matters, being able to scale it. So you can make 1 loaf of bread, 2 loaves of bread. When I was working in a hotel, we used to have to go in and you would have a prep list like a mile long, and it would say 1,600 2 1/4 ounce rolls. 1,600 2 1/4 ounce rolls. And that was just one thing on the list. So what we have to do then is come up with a formula or use the formula that we're given and scale it so that I come up with 1,600 2 1/4 ounce rolls, because my chef did not want to have 1,601 because that's waste. And he also didn't want to have 1,599 because that would be too little. He wanted to have 1,600. So you try, when we're working in bakeries or hotels or restaurants, we try to use formulas because we can scale it precisely to how much we want to make. Now, this might be not quite a regular person thing, and I know I'm trying to demystify, but this is actually incredibly helpful. It really is. If you are given a recipe for tomato sauce and you want to make 5 times the batch, you can't necessarily just do 5 times the batch. Sometimes that when you scale it, things get a little wonky. So instead, change it to percentages. For something like a tomato sauce, you'd have to pick the tomatoes to be the 100%. But then everything is based off of the tomatoes. So no matter how much you use, as long as you're weighing it out, it all comes out the same. It's very, very simple. It's very easy to do. And Google is your friend. So if it says 2.5 cups of flour, just Google how much does 2.5 cups of flour weigh in grams. That's all. And if it comes out to, that would be 250 plus whatever, 70, no, 60, 250 plus 60, so 310. I think it's actually 312.5. But whatever 2.5 cups of flour is, then you would use that as your 100%. Flour always equals 100%. Now, I said in the beginning, in America, that's how it is. That's because in France, water is always 100% because they apparently love their water. I don't know. Whereas in America, we're very wheat-driven. We are a farm culture, and so we changed it because we're Americans, and that's what we do. America, you know. And then we changed something like grams into cups. Not really. I know cups came first. Don't write me. But we could have changed way back when it would have made sense. Now we have the opportunity right now. So right now we're going to have we've got about 9 weeks or so of school at home. While you have your kids at home, switch them to the metric system. Brilliant. And we will take over the world. Actually, we'll just join the world. But even that would be great. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I am going to take this this is not Reba, this is just the container that I used. I'm going to take this that we poured off. It smells really good, by the way. I mean, really good. For a short-term starter, this smells great. I'm going to put a little more water or milk in this in the morning. I'm going to stick this in the fridge first of all. And in the morning, I'm going to put a little milk in it, a little vanilla, maybe crack an egg in there, mix it all up. And then I'm going to make pancakes. And they're going to be delicious. And that's not even my idea, but I steal from the best. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me on Facebook, on any of the pages. I think I'm posting this always on my personal page, but I need to start posting it on the Campbell's page as well, so I will do that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Tomorrow night, don't know what we're going to do tomorrow night. Feel free to ask. Feel free to suggest something. We're going to feed our starter, and then maybe the next night, let's just go ahead and say, tomorrow is Wednesday, so let's just say on Thursday, we're going to bake some sourdough bread. So that gives you a chance to find either a Dutch oven, which I would highly recommend, one with a metal knob if you have it, or a large, heavy walled pot that you can use. But again, if you don't have that, don't worry. I'm going to bake one without any of that stuff so that you will be able to see it. So let's just say it, 2 nights from now, sourdough bread is in your future. Be sure to get wax paper between now and then. Just like, whatever, Wax Right, I think is what it's called. It's a blue box. Grab some of that as well as your Dutch oven, and we will see you here tomorrow night. And then the next night, we're going to make some sourdough bread. I can't wait. And then we're going to slice it up and drop a slice off at the bakery for me to try. And then I'm going to eat a lot of sourdough bread. What do you think I was going to say? It's like a competition or something? It's not always have to be a competition, folks. This is just sustenance for your family. I just like sourdough bread, so I was trying to get, a little extra for my family. But if you do that, that's great, and we're not going to turn it down, and we're just going to say thank you. If you don't do that, that's fine too. I will see you tomorrow night. Oh, close your eyes.